I just got a text and told me how to get there.
Okay. We'll call this meeting to order for the Governing Board of Space Coast TPO. Did you hear the meeting? Or look, we're good. Okay. All right. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public agenda. Anyone wishing to make a comment on an agenda item not on the agenda should complete a speaker card at the sign-in desk. For items on the agenda, please fill out a speaker card and you will be called upon when the item is discussed. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. We'll start with reports. Mr. Ojana.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's good to see everyone. Very happy that you are here with us today. There are a few items I wanted to cover from the director's report on page 3. The Central Florida MPO Alliance will be meeting tomorrow at Metroplan Orlando at 10 a.m. We have 3 board members that will be attending tomorrow. Thank you very much. And if you would like to listen, there is a Zoom link for members of the public. So that is provided in your agenda package. The Florida Metropolitan Planning Organization Advisory Council will be meeting July 29th at the Orlando Airport Marriott Lakeside. There's also a link if you'd like more information on that upcoming meeting as well. I will be reporting back to you on any actions that are taken at those meetings. Also, I wanted to mention to you the high visibility enforcement funding. FDOT offers local law enforcement agencies funding contracts for high visibility enforcement. And this is to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety at specific high crash segments here in Brevard County. And it's for the whole state of Florida, but we do have some here in Brevard County. We are not currently utilizing all of the money that is available according to the Florida DOT. And of course, with that being said, we have heard that from some of our law enforcement agencies that they are dealing with a shortage of officers. So unfortunately, that is a reality that we're having to deal with. And that's certainly a challenge. But we would like to send out more information about that to our governing board members and let you see the individual law enforcement agencies in your area and how much money is on the table that could be utilized. So we're gonna send that out to you so you can look through it and see those high crash segments. The Brevard County Sheriff's Office, I think, has the most amount of money, roughly over $30,000, almost $40,000. Yes, so it is something that we certainly would love to work with those agencies to try and get them to utilize that funding. So on that note, at your place, you have a flyer. It's called the Stop on Red flyer. And as part of the National Stop on Red Week on August the 3rd at 9 a.m., we will be at the intersection of O'Galley and Wickham. And we're going to be there along with the Melbourne Police Department. And they will be pulling over motorists that fail to stop for a red light, and they're going to use it as an education moment. And we've heard, you know, that there will also be roughly 7 to 10 DOT folks that will be there with us. We have a couple committee members from the TACCAC that have volunteered as well, I believe. And Yes, and so the more the merrier. We're looking for volunteers, and so education and enforcement is so critical to bringing down fatalities, and also for our Vision Zero action plan. Engineering is an important part of it as well, but education and enforcement really can make a big difference. So we're really excited about that.
Just act, it's not you that comes out if you have a kid, a grandkid, somebody that needs community service hours and want to send them out. And
Yes.
It's a good way and a 3-4-hour community service.
Thank you, Kim. Very good. I also just wanted to mention, speaking of Vision Zero, recognize the city of Cocoa. They are one of our Vision Zero heroes. It's a new program that we've started. Their council adopted a Vision Zero resolution committing to that effort. And they also implemented a roadside marker program. And so I want to thank Councilmember Koss, Councilmember Lavander Hearn, for taking the time to speak about the city's efforts and then paying tribute to a life that was lost. And we had a wonderful event, and it was somber, but yet it was so important to what we're trying to do here. And we encourage all of our cities to be Vision Zero cities. So thank you for your leadership. And Madam Chair, I'll be happy to answer any questions. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Ms. Gillette? No questions being seen? We'll move on to the next item, please.
All right, the Technical Advisory Committee, Citizens Advisory Committee report. Just wanted to let you know that both of the committees met on Monday and they're back together again. Due to the pandemic, we had split them. One was in the morning, one was in the afternoon. So they're all back together, meeting together as one big happy family. And I think everyone was excited about that. At your place, the committees recommended that the TPO approve the consent agenda. Also, they approved the fiscal year 21 through 25 Transportation Improvement Program amendment. Also, resolution 22-03, which is our new fiscal year 22 through 26 Transportation Improvement Program report. Also, fiscal year 22 list of project priorities, and resolution 2204, which is our Intelligent Transportation System Master Plan. And at your place, you also have a summary of actions and the attendance from that meeting. And also in your package, you have the draft TACCAC minutes of May 10th and the attendance record for your information. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next would be the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trails Advisory Committee, Sarah. And Sarah, I apologize for not letting you go through your slides like I was supposed to for public comment.
Public comment? We don't have any public comment online anyways. All right, good afternoon. I'm Sarah Crom. I'm the Senior Transportation Planner for the Space Coast TPO. The Bicycle, Pedestrian, Trails Advisory Committee met on June 28th. You do not have the draft minutes in your agenda package because the turnaround between agenda package prep and the date of the meeting was just not possible. So you'll have those meeting minutes in September. So during the meeting, we reviewed the draft list of project priorities, which we'll do later today with this group as well. And they received 2 presentations, a Vision Zero update from Kim Smith, and then an FDOT crosswalk presentation from Brenda Young with FDOT. Both presentations sparked a lot of really great conversation about bicycle and pedestrian safety that we'll be continuing to have with that group. And that's all. The next meeting is August 30th. That's all I have to report today.
And I believe the next item is yours as well.
Nope, Terry Jordan.
Oh, Terry, all right. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. And Sarah actually also has taken care of this for me, so sometimes there's a little confusion. Terry Jordan, Space Coast Area Transit. I'm here to just present a summary of the actions taken at the local coordinating board meeting that took place on May 24th. Actions taken were for the approval of the rate model for the Space Coast Area Transit to be paid by the TD Commission. There was a slight increase of 4 cents for the ambulatory passenger mile to $1.85, and once again, a slight increase of 6 cents to $3.17 for wheelchair passenger miles. And just to be clear, this is not what passengers pay. This is what is paid to Space Coast Area Transit for providing the service. Other action that was taken action on was to allow for Space Coast Area Transit to continue as the local coordinating transportation services of Brevard County, as we have done over the history of transit service in the county. So we actually just have to go through the process on a 5-year basis just to approve that we can continue as the provider of the coordinated transportation service. So it means that other entities will not duplicate the same service provided by Space Coast. They will coordinate with us to make sure that all passengers get the service needed without any duplication of services or any competition for services. And those were the 2 major actions taken at the LCB board meeting. Our chairwoman asked me to also give a quick update on our ITS project that Space Coast Area Transit is providing. It's actually on the display screen on the back of the room. It's a little small to see from your seats, but what it does show are the vehicles in service on throughout our service area. And what you're looking at on the board right now is one vehicle that is showing the speed in the little purple box on the right side. It looks like 4 miles per hour from here. I can't tell for sure. And then the information shows how many passengers are on board. It shows exactly who the operator is and where the bus is located. So we could see this information for any vehicle that's in service anytime during the day and be able to capture anything we need to from the vehicle, and also use this for planning purposes. There's several other components to it that show passenger use per trip, passenger use per stop location. Councilman Jordan in the past had asked about how we determine ridership or shelters at a particular location. This now gives us the ability to see ridership at those particular locations at the stops, so we can determine the best and most advantageous places to put shelters or infrastructure at stops now. There are also a couple of other components like announcements. So passengers that are either visually or hearing impaired can see the next stop or hear it announced at specific stop locations, among other things. I'll be glad to go into more details after the meeting if you want to stop by, and I can show you additional information. Another component that I do want to make sure is discussed is what Stephen just displayed. This is the passenger side of things. So we want to make sure that the passengers also benefit from this system, where if you're waiting on a bus, you pull up this exact information and it shows you exactly where that bus is located. And on this map also has individual stop locations. If you click on a stop, it shows you how soon to anticipate the arrival of that bus at your particular stop. So as a passenger, if we were inside the building right now and it was raining, we know not to go outside until the bus is a couple of minutes away, versus as it was previously, you go outside with the expected time and the bus may or may not come for another 5, 6, 7, 10 minutes potentially. But now you know within 2 minutes you'll be at that stop location, when to start heading to the stop based on where you're in proximity. And it shows all of our bus routes. There's additional components that will be for our demand response service, but it's not shown on this because it's a totally separate section. But once again, if you've got any questions, I'll be glad to explain more details after the meeting, along with Stephen and the ITS project over there. And if there are any questions on the local coordinating board, I'll be glad to answer as well.
I just have one question. Is there live coverage as well? If there were an incident on the bus, you could actually see live what's going on the bus?
So it is internal. Actually, we're working on that component right now. So for example, if there were an accident, we can actually remotely access the camera system on board the vehicle. So we could see inside the vehicle what's going on. And there are also external cameras that face forward and rear of vehicles. So we could see that remotely. We're working to get that active, but that's a component that we will have available to us as well.
Oh, this is terrific. Thank you so much for adding this to the meeting. It really makes a lot of sense, and it makes the meeting as well. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Any other questions for Terry? Yes, Lorraine?
So This that you're seeing now is an app, but it's also available. I'm sorry, I did mean to mention that. Thank you very much, Councilwoman Cost, excuse me. 321transit.com or the 321 Transit app displays this information for the passengers to see. The first screen is only internal, but this screen that you're seeing displayed now is what passengers see on, once again, 321transit.com or the 321 Transit app. And like I said, it's live information, so it's always being updated. It's about a 10-second delay at most, typically, unless something goes down.
Commissioner Lober.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just wanted to take a brief moment and recognize Mr. Jordan. He was just recently named our Department Director over Space Coast Area Transit, so congratulations to him.
Thank you again, sir. Likewise. Another great question. Thank you. So it's very interesting. Maybe about 3 weeks ago, staff and myself, several of us went out to the major transfer locations, Hammock Landing, Melbourne Square Mall, Shepherd Park, and of course the Cocoa Transit Center. And we're actually one-on-one discussing it with the passengers that rode the bus and showing them the app. One of the very most interesting things was that many of the passengers were already aware of it by word of mouth. And we were able to give them a little bit more details about the app, but many of them were already aware of the app itself and were utilizing it already. Primarily, we put it out on our website, and I don't have one in front of me, I'm sorry, but all of our bus schedules now show it on the back of the schedule. It shows real-time information is how it's been advertised. So the passengers know there's real-time information available to them.
I mean, the number one thing you said, but you do, and I'm telling you just that I did not have to go out in the rain and wait for a bus. You know, you can see it going through that close. Being very, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the comments. I just made a note of the request, and I'll see you with working of our marketing and advertising firm to get directly with the local municipalities to see about doing that as well. Thank you. All right. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much. All right, next we're going to hear from Anna Taylor from Florida Department of Transportation.
Good afternoon, Chair, Board. My name is Anna Taylor. I'm with FDOT, the Planning Office. I wanted to make a small correction to the FDOT construction report that you guys received. I wanted to let you know that the upcoming State Road 3 Courtney Parkway resurfacing job is actually now under construction. I also wanted to let you know that they are going to begin work on the same side as the bridge replacement. At this time, crews are wrapping up the bridge replacement project. We anticipate that work to be done by the end of this month, weather permitting, no hurricanes. And the plan for the resurfacing job is that they will actually start on the side of the bridge and then work to the other end. At this time, there are some lane closures that they anticipate with the resurfacing, but those will be between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., avoiding peak hours as much as possible. I wanted to give a brief update on the stimulus. There's been a lot of talk from a federal and state level about stimulus money, in the infrastructure package. I wanted to assure you all that conversations are ongoing. The department's leadership team is working with the TPO very closely. We are going to be getting everything in place should money become available. At this time, we have no exact dollar figures as to what will be coming to District 5. We're not sure how the money will be divided across the state. So we're working with our partners very closely to make sure that all of the list of priority projects are in place and that we understand what is able to move forward. I also have one last announcement. There's been a leadership change at District 5. Many of you know Lorene Bobo, who was our Director of Development. Our Secretary Tebow at the state level implemented his vital few. Part of that was an emphasis on safety. One of the recommendations that came out of the task team for the vital few was the creation of a safety office, and District 5 has adopted that. Obviously, we talk about safety a lot at these meetings and from the department's perspective when we talk about our projects. And so we wanted to have a safety office where we were able to cross over from design, construction, and really look at safety from a higher view than just individuals. So I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot more from Director Bobo. That position is a direct report to Secretary Perdue. He finds that to be very important. And I'm sure you'll hear more in the coming months. And that concludes my report. If you guys have any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Taylor? All right, seeing none, thank you very, very much. The next item, item 4, is our consent agenda. Georgiana, would you please read the consent agenda aloud for the record?
Absolutely. So 4A is the Space Coast TPO Governing Board minutes of May 13th. We have our committee appointments. 4C is the professional services agreement for traffic data collection program, which is a very important piece of our congestion management and performance monitoring process. We also have our fiscal year 2021 operating budget quarterly report, our draft fiscal year 22 operating budget, our work order 2205T, which is the transit ridership survey scope of services, also resolution 22-01 transportation disadvantaged trust fund planning grant, and then finally resolution 2205 Central Florida MPO Alliance fiscal year 22 regional list of priority projects.
Thank you very much, Georgiana. This will be passed in one motion. May we have a motion to pass the
Madam
consent
Chair.
agenda?
Before we do that, I had a couple concerns with item C as Charlie and E as Echo.
Okay.
If you'd like, I can make a motion to approve Alpha, Bravo, Delta, Foxtrot, Golf, and Hotel now, and then we can just address the other two.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, that's the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. All right.
All right, on 4C as Charlie, I think there was just a typo there, and I wanted to make sure that if we approve it, we also authorize staff and the chair to correct this wherever it may appear elsewhere. On page 97, Exhibit B price sheet, the math doesn't add up. If you add the subtotals up, it doesn't equal out to the estimated total cost. Looking at it, that first line entry, the first row, not first column, but first row entry past the titles, the 500 times 90 a piece, unless my math is wrong, it's been since the 90s since I've taken a math class, but I don't think it nets out to 445. So I'm fine passing it, and I'd make a motion to pass it as long as we authorize staff and the chair to correct that wherever else it may appear.
No, absolutely. Do you want to do then E while we're.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure. And I just had a quick question. I want to make sure, because I think I understand this. On page 101, it looks like the TPO fiscal year 22 operating budget draft dated July 1, 2021. Under expenditures, the first row there, salary and benefits, I saw that the increase percentage-wise was actually pretty sizable, 8.5%. Is that simply because we added a position to TPO? Is that what accounts for a lot of that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm seeing nodding. If that's the case, then I'm fine with it. I just wanted to make sure that that my understanding was at least close to right.
It's, Commissioner, it's a readjustment for salaries. It reflects a 3% increase that has not been decided at this moment. That will be coming in the next few months. It also covers some contingency fees of annual sick leave for a retiring employee.
But the increase that's contemplated is the 3%, not an 8.5%, right?
No, it is not. And
Okay.
It's not 8.5. It's
Okay, I just wanted to
3%.
make sure. Okay.
There's also an increase in health benefits too and retirement. It's significantly increased.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve both Charlie and Echo under item 4 with the caveat that the chair and staff are authorized to change that one typo that I addressed earlier anywhere that it may appear.
All right. Thank you. Motion by Lober and second by Minus. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. All right. Moving on now to item 5. This is going to be Laura with A, and B and C will require a roll call vote. So Laura?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. I'm Laura Carter, the Assistant Director of the Space Coast TPO. Before you today as an independent agency, the Space Coast TPO, because we do expend more than $750,000 annually in federal funds, is required to have an independent audit done. The current contract that we have for an auditing firm of James Moore does expire this September. So this last year's fiscal audit was their last one in the contract. Audits are a little bit unique in that it's very dictated to us through statute and other regulatory items that we must follow, how auditing selection firms are created and how selecting an auditing firm is done. So before you today, there is a decision to be made. There's 2 options I've provided, and I'm open for discussion if you have other ones, of how to select an auditing firm. One of the members of the auditing firm must be a member from this board, however. So please keep that in mind. The 2 options you have before you today is 1, you could delegate this activity to the executive committee, and they in turn can either have all 5 of their committee members participate in the selection process or select at a minimum, we have to have 3 members. The other option is just to select 3 governing board members today, right now, and then I could move forward with a schedule of how that selection process would go. Staff would be preparing the request for proposal package, but please be aware that you need to be interested a little bit in numbers. I don't necessarily think you have to have auditing experience, but it would be helpful, and all the information staff would go over, but the selection committee would be expected to meet at least twice. You would have to meet before we even send the package out because you are responsible for all of the criteria that will be used in selecting the firm. And then once you evaluate them, meeting back together, going over the scores, and then bringing the full report package back to the full board for their approval. Ultimately, whatever schedule we end up with, we do need to have an auditing firm available to us to begin work January 1st. So the approval of the auditing contract needs to be in line with the December meeting at the very latest. So I'm open for any questions, but the 2 options are either delegate to the executive committee. You would still be brought back with the recommendation of which auditing firm is recommended, or select 3 members now.
Madam Chair, is it all right if we consider maybe mixing and matching? Because there's one person I think that would be really good if everyone's okay with it. And then perhaps for the other 2, we can punt it to the executive committee unless there are folks that want to jump on now. I'm thinking Commissioner Pritchett would be really good. Number 1, because she's not here and can't say no.
Sure.
And number 2, she's also a CPA, and we've had her sitting on similar boards with the county, and I've been pleased with what she's done. So I'm thinking if folks are okay with it, maybe we say Commissioner Pritchett for 1 and then let the executive board pick the other 2.
So do you want to pass this to the executive committee with the addition of Commissioner Pritchett added to that committee?
So basically, we would select Commissioner Pritchett as one of the 3 and then let the executive committee select the other 2, unless someone's really inclined, in which case we can put them on. And
why not just have, I think what she's asking is what Commissioner Pritchett on the executive, what the executive committee makes.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, that'll be the motion.
Motion by Lober,
Thanks.
second by Mr. Allender. Do you have any issues with adding the commissioner to the committee?
I don't think. I would think you're tentatively, you would then just defer to the executive committee to
Sounds fair.
select the 3. If she's not available, it would then to be 3 members of the executive committee.
Okay, the motion contemplates that. Second still hold? Perfect.
All right, if everyone knows what they're voting on now. All those approved? I'm sorry, all those in approval?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. I guess that's clear. Executive Committee plus Pritchett unless she cannot make it. Okay. All right. Next item, B. Georgiana, Ms. Gillette. This will be a roll call vote.
All right, so this is a housekeeping item. So our current transportation improvement program is still in effect until the end of the federal fiscal year, which is September 30th. And so the Florida Department of Transportation has requested one change in our current TIP. And that project, the original limits of the project was US 1 at Madrid Drive. Now, this was a drainage improvement. So the DOT has deferred that project for construction 1 year so that it could be let with a resurfacing project on US 1 from Post Road to the Pineda Causeway. So the two would be let at the same time. And the limits of this project has also changed. So it now is from US 1 from Miller Cove Road to the Pineda Causeway. So it's a much longer limit. And so we are asking, and by the way, the construction for both of the projects is in fiscal year 23. The resurfacing is 6.2 million and the drainage project is 3.7 million. So it's two big projects in the Palm Coast area. And so we are asking for a motion to approve the TIP amendment.
May I get a motion to approve the TIP amendment?
Second, Lober.
Second, Lober. Who made the motion? Oh, Mr. Jordan. I know now because you have a whole road named after you. I happen to notice that. Yes, I have that now. All those in favor? Those opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. All right, item C.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Yeah.
I said that 3 times and didn't do it. All right, roll call vote. Ms. Lisa.
Okay. Allender,
Yes.
Foster, Hanley, Koss, Lober,
Aye.
Medina. Sorry, not present. Minus,
Aye.
Robinson, Zonka, Gibson. And I'm sorry, did I miss anyone? Oh, Mr. Forrester, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared. Okay, and Mr. Jordan, I'm so sorry. Boy, we just keep forgetting you. I'm so sorry. Oh, and I'm sorry, our chair, I'm sorry, I was not prepared, sorry. Okay, are we good now?
Aye.
I think I have everybody. Aye, thank you.
All right, we got through that easily. See?
All right, so moving on to item 5, this is also my item. This is the approval of our brand new transportation improvement program. And so for the 3 months between July 1st and September 30th, we have 2 tips that we need to maintain. So every year, the tentative work program is submitted to the governor and the legislature, and it's also provided to the TPO to develop our new tip. And so that is where we are at in the process. And just a couple slides I wanted to review with you. Just as a reminder, you know, it really all begins with our long-range transportation plan. That is our visionary document. It really defines who we want to be when we grow up. And in that long-range plan, we have a set of cost feasible tables because a project cannot be deemed cost feasible unless there's reasonably expected revenue. So it's not just a wish list. And then from that cost feasible table, we will put projects on our priority list as those projects are submitted to us from all the different local governments. And then finally, when we turn that list over to the DOT, they try to fund as many projects with state and federal funds as possible. And that's how projects get into the TIP. That's where these projects come from. Just as a quick reminder. And in our brand new TIP, which by the way, that was sent out to you 30 days ago for you to dig into and review and And we have received some questions from the public about projects. We had our annual open house, and we got a lot of really good feedback. But in that tip, it lays out the different categories. And, you know, just to mention a few, our highway and bridge capacity projects. Of course, we've got the 528 widening, the Ellis widening, US 192 in Hollywood, which is major intersection improvement. The NASA Causeway, Space Commerce Way widening. We have 19 resurfacing projects and bridge repair. And of course, you will see that a very large majority of the funding is for space, seaports, and rail. And that is extremely important modal projects for the Space Coast area. And that also includes rail, as I mentioned. Also, I wanted to mention, this is just a table that shows state, federal, and local match. For instance, there are space projects. There is the local match is really private funding that is coming into our area for commercial space, which is quite a value for our area. And I will just end on this slide. There's a total of 315 projects in the TIP, totaling $1 billion over the 5 years, which is actually considerably more than we normally get. And that is coming from the $90 million infrastructure grant that we received for the NASA Causeway bridge replacement and the Space Commerce Way widening. So that really kind of jacked up that amount considerably. But it's a lot of money coming into Brevard County to improve safety and economic vitality. So we are asking for your approval of the TIP for fiscal year 22 through 26.
Motion by Minus, second.
Yes, sir.
The seaport in space, you said also include rail. Where are we putting money in rail?
There is one rail project in there, as a matter of fact, and the DOT actually has a rail office, but the one project that is in the TIP is for, if you remember, we assisted Brightline in applying for a build grant to double track a portion of the Florida East Coast Railway just north of Cocoa, where the FEC line will turn west and head to Orlando in the Brightline. And so in our TIP, that project is in there, and it is a combination of I believe it's state funding, Anna, I'm not for sure. The fund code is DIS, and also it says local. I don't know for sure. I think it's private funding. I think it could be coming from Brightline, and that might be a question that Anna could find out for us. I don't think it's local funding from our area. I'm pretty sure that it is private funding.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. This is a roll call vote. I remember this time. Ms. Lisa?
Okay, I hope to do better at this time. Mr. Allender?
Yes.
Felix? Mr. Felix?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Mr. Forrester? Mr. Forrester? Yes. Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Hanley? Mr. Jordan? Ms. Koss? Aye. And Commissioner Lober?
Aye.
Ms. Minus?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Aye.
Commissioner Zonka? Aye. And Ms. Gibson? Yes. And did I miss anyone? Thank you very much.
All right, next item, Sarah, item D.
All right. So I will be presenting our list of project priorities for adoption today. If you recall from our May meeting, we went over the process and kind of gave a highlight of the current list of project priorities in preparation for today's presentation. So we could keep it short and sweet so Steve can go on with the ITS show. So I guess before we get started, just a highlight of some of the items in your agenda package. There are 3 maps. This is our first time making maps. Thank you, Chelsea. However, there is an indiscrepancy on the 2021 project priorities map, one with all the projects. The ranking changed in between the data set that we gave Chelsea and the package. And so that was an error that I didn't catch, and I apologize. So if you're referring to the actual ranking, be sure to look at the actual list, which you have a large printout as well as also a small printout in your agenda package. So I'm going to review essentially the changes that occurred during this cycle of building our list of project priorities. We pulled off a number of projects. This was a good thing. That's because they were fully funded. So obviously, if they are fully funded, we no longer need them on the priority list. So just to highlight some of the great projects, we have a number of sidewalk projects, including John Roads and several in Cocoa. The Parish Park Trailhead project that we recently had to amend our list of project priorities for was able to be fully funded. We have some resurfacings, some ITS projects, as well as also the NASA projects that Georgiana just mentioned. So, and also the US 192 Hollywood intersection improvements. We have a really varied list that we were able to get fully funded and moved off the project priority list and completely in the tip now. So those are kind of things that moved off. We then had 6 new projects added, and we had 1 project that we added to our candidate list, as well as also we separated out our planning projects. And so before I get into the 7 project applications we received, if you recall last year, FDOT made the request that we create 1 list of project priorities, as opposed to in previous years, we had it split out into bicycle pedestrian projects, ITS projects, capacity, all the different types of projects. And so we went through the process of developing the singular list. And something that we noticed and that we talked to FDOT about, and they were okay with this, is that the planning projects really didn't belong with the other projects. And that was really to help us and municipalities and FDOT plan better, because those are the types of projects that Space Coast TPO staff will eventually do through the UPWP, or some of your staff through your planning departments. And so it's kind of they're a different project that really needed to be looked at in a different way. So we pulled those out. So that was a major change to the list. And so you'll see that as its own separate list now. Now, before I go into the 7 new projects that we received, just a quick reminder that the way that the projects are ranked is through a quantitative score based on the criteria approved by this governing board, a qualitative score based upon a consensus recommendation of the Transportation Subcommittee. They did make a couple recommendations that's reflected in your project prioritization or your list today. And then finally, discretionary ranking. And essentially what discretionary ranking is today, based on a consensus of this board, you could give us direction to move project X, Y, and Z to position X, A, B, and C because of thus and thus reason. Also, before I get started, another comment is that when we build out the project priority list, we instantly put all the construction ready projects up at the top, because clearly those are the projects that they're ready to go. We're here to finish projects. And so we instantly put those at the top. And another comment that I'd like to make before I go into it is that just because a project is ranked, let's say 27, that doesn't mean necessarily 26 other projects have to be fully funded before it will receive funding. There's a mishmash of different funding sources, as you just saw with Georgiana's presentation in regards to the TIP, where some of these projects aren't directly competing with other projects, if that makes sense. So our 6 new projects, 2 of them weren't necessarily a new project. 2 of them we added back on our priority list. The first is the Traffic Management Center. It is currently ranked number 3, and I am not going to talk about it anymore because Steve's going to tell you all about it in a few minutes. The second project is the Space Coast Trail, and this was originally fully funded, and then in the last FDOT work program cycle, the construction was deleted. And so we need to put it back on the priority list, as well as also we're splitting it out into 2 phases. This has several reasons behind it, one of which is obviously to help move funding along. Staff is requesting that we discretionary rank it as number 4 and 5. 1, it's construction ready. 2, it was previously funded. 3, it's a part of the Coast to Coast Trail. It's a really vital gap to both the Coast to Coast Trail, St. John's River to Sea Loop. And because of that, it's the number 1 on the Central Florida MPO trail list. And so we just approved the regional priority list that has it listed as number 1. So we feel if it's being ranked regionally as number 1, we need to put it as high as we can as well. We have a sidewalk project in Satellite Beach from Volunteer Way to Roosevelt. This was submitted by the city. Okay. We have a planning study to basically analyze the complete street concept, curb and gutter, and Cape Canaveral and Cocoa Beach from 520 to International Drive. This would essentially continue the feel and complete street concept that's already being designed up in the northern part of Cape Canaveral. So continue that project along to 520. State Road 520 Cocoa Beach Causeway. We submitted on behalf of Cocoa Beach a planning study or Causeway vulnerability assessment. It's been a long discussion in regards to what do we do with our causeways, as well as also this specific causeway is already experiencing flooding and storm impacts just on regular king tide and rainy day events. So I'm sure yesterday it was, partially underwater. So really we need to hone in and figure out a course of action on what to do with this causeway that makes sense in regards to resiliency and sea level rise. Mitten Road from Jupiter Boulevard to Malabar Road. This is a widening project in Palm Bay, basically looking at the feasibility of widening it. So this is a planning study. And then the one project that I mentioned that was submitted that it's going on the candidate list is the Norfolk Parkway extension from St. John's Heritage Parkway to the Melbourne city limits. This was submitted by Melbourne. The reason it is going on the candidate list and not actually on the list of project priorities is we need to meet with staff, develop a course forward, and it's also not currently eligible to be on our list of project priorities because it is not within our long-range transportation plan. So over the next year, we hope to work with them, figure out how to get it on there, and hopefully next year I'll be presenting that it's on the list. So those are the major changes to the list of project priorities, and I'll take questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, we have questions. All right, we'll start on this. Did I just see it? Yes.
Of bike and pedestrian trails and fun trails and everything else, but I'm always gonna go for infrastructure. I know pedestrian trails are important, but putting the fun trail ahead of much overdue and decades of needed construction on streets like Babcock and other roads and Parkway. I'm not gonna, I will not support this. I get that the MPO prioritized on their list, but it doesn't mean we have to vote.
That is correct. This project is not eligible. It cannot receive the same funding as the major widening. It is not allowed to receive. Yes, but it could not receive the funding. The major widening projects like Malabar, Babcock, it is literally ineligible for those funding. Yeah.
I'd love to hear the input from the rest of the board, and I wish more people would hear today. There are a lot of bike and pedestrian trails, which are wonderful. I'm the biggest fan, but it's not going to go above. The phone calls that we get are not for more bike and pedestrian, not for those kinds of transportation of people that are just deadlocked in traffic and need to get.
Commissioner, I will tell you, one of the major calls we get at our office is definitely about South Babcock and when it's going to be widened or.
The county's already committed money to resurfacing. We're doing what we can with the limitations that we have. That's always going to be close to the top.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Lober.
Just with respect to that first, I'm flexible, just depending on where other folks are. I don't view this as being absolutely in stone. One change I would propose though, and frankly, I don't know that it would be appropriate for me to say move my project in D2 higher in the list. Might be nice, but it's not necessarily the most appropriate thing. This would result in just a couple of other projects being moved. And frankly, I don't think they're in the ballpark of the same cost. Looking at the third item in the list of priorities, the traffic management center, looks like that's actually in District 4, if I had to hazard a guess there. But that's something that has huge countywide impact. So if folks are amenable, I would suggest that we at least consider moving 3 to 1's position and moving down 1 and 2 accordingly. I'm hoping that's not too controversial because it kind of benefits everyone.
Well, I know that 1 has been priority for many years over. Mr. Forrester, did you want to?
Yeah, a couple of questions. The Space Coast Trail, I don't know, we're holding on construction on that right now. We had some discussion 2 or 3 years ago concerning this and what it would look like, where the bike / pedestrian path would go. There was debate over whether it would be a wide spot on the side of the existing blacktop or whether it was going to be a separate. Where did we end up on that? Because I recall this group pretty much was leaning strongly towards let's put a separate walkway and not have people try to ride their bike cars from the bus.
Correct. It is a separate, the east-west portion, which is the discussion that we're having now, is completely separated from traffic with at least a 4-foot buffer, if not through portions of it. For example, you have a railroad and a canal, a ditch in between you. So where you can't even see the traffic. So it's very well separated. Are you talking about Fisk? Correct. So what happened with Fisk Boulevard is that after the planning study, essentially, in order for projects to continue to move forward, other than within the resurfacing, because we were able to get some of the improvements during the resurfacing. But if, like, in regards to the roundabout was off the table due to city council and this governing board saying it was off the table. But basically, any of the additional improvements that the city wanted to pursue out of that study application had to be submitted. So project number 15 is State Road 519, Fisk Boulevard at Roy Wall Boulevard. And that's an intersection improvement to basically realign Martin with Roy Wall and install a signal. So that project is in the pipeline. I don't know how many times we've met about it at this point. It feels like every other month. And as well as the city of Cocoa submitted project number on the planning list. Project number 6 on the planning list. Basically a curb and gutter complete street study to kind of bring the area from Roselle Jones to 520 up to kind of the same look and curb appeal as the rest of Fisk Boulevard, and to provide better drainage and pedestrian access. I live in Rockledge. I feel your pain. Yeah. Well,
let's do this phase of the project. I'm talking about, I want to a little closer coordination with the city, maybe work together on different things. These lately have been narrow sidewalks.
trying to get wider sidewalks throughout the city. So these guys come in with no advance notice to us. They may be 4 feet, they look like 3. Skippy little sidewalk all up and down through there now. It just, when I look back at what we had proposed and what we were talking about for years doing on this, I'm asking myself, why are they doing all this work when they got to redo it in 2 years? And when I look down here at this, it's disappeared.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that, when a resurfacing comes along, we did the big study. We had the vision of what we wanted Fisk to look like. But when the resurfacing comes along, it is an opportunity for the department to fold in some improvements that the city wanted. But you have to do that within the available right of way. And so we believe that we got everything in that resurfacing that could fit within the schedule and the time frame that they would be able to do it. So anything outside of that, if we needed to do wider sidewalks, that's going to have to be a separate project. And we have to work with the city to figure out, okay, where do you want that? How we need to get it on the priority list. And we've been trying meeting with Brenda and working with her on trying to move those projects forward. The roundabout definitely was not favorable at that time. But if it is, then that's a project that we can move on the priority list as well.
Could I ask you to speak in the microphone? I can't hear over the rain. I apologize.
Thank you.
I'm
The
sorry.
last thing the last thing I remember discussing about it was we were going to have a signalized intersection at Roy Wall and then a roundabout in front of Levitt Park. And so I guess that's completely.
Yeah, the roundabout's been completely cut.
Rounded up.
I bring it up every once in a while and just to see what the
I think it would have
appetite
been
is.
interesting, but there wasn't a lot of community support for it, but I think it might have been if it was done right.
So I did recently meet with the new planning director. I'd be happy to meet with anyone's planning director and to specifically discuss those intersections. And I'm hoping we can get another relook at some of them and maybe we'll see some movement. So,
all right.
Thank you. I really appreciate the comments.
I have a comment with regard to Ms. Zonka's concern. Would it be possible to not just have one list? Could we pull things that would not be qualified for that same funding off of this list? So you could still have the priorities, but they don't have to be on the same list.
We've discussed doing that potentially next year, but basically last year FDOT pushed us to really do the one list, and we kind of we're giving it some time to see how it flows. If we feel like it's not being appropriately used, then we're going to push back and separate lists out. Is that
yes, and Madam Chair, I would say, if this board would prefer that we have individual lists, we have a local, like we used to, we have a local government list where South Babcock and Malabar Road can reside, and then we have a bicycle pedestrian list and then a state road list. That's how we used to do it. Yep. If this board wants us to go back to that is your, then that way the local government list, South Babcock could be number 1 on that list. It is challenging when you have to, you've got sidewalks competing with major capacity projects. How do you rank them? Mm-hmm. And I think Laura and Sarah have done an amazing job trying to fold in our performance measures, all the different weighted factors, but it's very difficult. It's hard. And so if you want us to go back to the way we did it before, we can certainly do that. Or if you just want to shuffle some projects around on this one list, we can do that too. You set the priorities.
Mm-hmm. We don't want to seem insensitive by saying
you have 100% control over what this list looks like. I want to make sure our members fully comprehend that. So we're here to listen to you.
What are the wishes of the board? Ms. Zonka?
good fun projects that stars and trails and stuff. So I don't know how to move forward with that. You know, you're looking at $150,000 to $200,000 project. Do you think that's at least as far as the board can help us find? I know there's different projects, but you know, it seems to be a good system. I've backed off before. Malabar voted before. Those are the things that they don't follow me on. Now they want a sidewalk in the neighborhood, they're not sprinting. So I think at least our message to DOT, even if it is a different source of funding, because I know that I'm not known. I want those up in my because that's gotta be our every time. If we want to
But before we start moving projects, I just want to verify with Laura and Georgiana, because of our policy with putting in our prioritization policy has it where the construction ready have to stay at the top. Is that like flexible, or, I mean, what is? Oh.
I think if this board wants to shuffle things around, they certainly have the ability to do that.
I just want to make sure I wasn't breaking policy before I move forward, so.
I would, just a quick comment, I would recommend, the board for a long history has always said, finish what you started, which would mean the first 11 projects, now you can shuffle them up, the first 11, stay in the top 11 because they only need construction to finish them. And then you can rearrange those, and then starting with project 12, I mean, it is up to the
I
board.
appreciate your input, I do, but I'm sorry, and I know space is number one, probably important thing to most people here, but those aren't, a lot of that stuff can get private funding as well. So that's not important for my district. So I'm going to fight every time for infrastructure projects in my district, because you can look at the Babcock project and you can see even Ellis, which I know is number one, you see what that number looks like. If it keeps remaining on the bottom of the list, it's never going to get funding because that number looks too large. So again, it's up to the will of this board, and thankfully we all get a say, but I don't know.
Any other input? Yes, Mindy. Can you speak into the microphone?
I guess my question is, so with these trail projects, like, so they're ready to be done. You've already done all the planning, you've spent all the money in that sense, and so they're ready to be implemented. So hypothetically, we took these and we threw them at the bottom of the list. Does that end up ultimately costing us more money? Because then we have to then go back into a planning session where we like lose the money that we've spent already in the planning mode of this by moving up other projects.
If they stay, design will be complete in December. Because they were previously completely funded, they were queued up to literally start construction. What the letting date was like March of next year, Anna, I believe, off the top of my head. If we put those designs on there too long, yes, we would have to do a design update, like if it gets put on the shelf too long. So they are completely, as of December, they'll be ready to let. And as I said, I am completely understanding of what Commissioner Zonk is saying. As Jordana said, it's really difficult for us to sit there and try to compare apples to apples. And basically, these are not going to be competing with the same funding sources as pretty much any other project on the list. This is really focused on getting the state Sun Trail funding, which is $25 million a year, that can only go to projects such as the Coast to Coast Trail, St. John's River to Sea, East Coast Greenway, regional trails.
I think I probably have 2, maybe 3 or 4 more. So
yeah.
So other than the funding source, so obviously they're getting the money from a different place that wouldn't affect or take money away from any of the road projects, but is it staff time still? So there's still money or time that you guys would be then focused on those and not on maybe other projects? Is that what Commissioner Zonk, is that sort of what you're saying, is that you'd like the focus to be, or the fund?
We attend every single, between me, Georgiana, Laura, occasionally depending on the other subject matter of the project, any project that FDOT is completing or a municipality is completing, one of us is going to be sitting at the table no matter what, no matter where it is on the priority list. It could be number 40. And if FDOT or a municipality wants to hold a meeting about that project, we'll be there fighting tooth and nail for it. It doesn't matter where it lands.
If I may, what do you think about this? I know, we all know that there's different flavors of money. So if we take some of these projects that are of the most interest and move it up, it's not going to affect that. So, Ellis Road has been number one for many, many, many years, and something is going to have to be done there. Commissioner Lober mentioned the Traffic Management Center. What if we move that to number 2? And then if South Babcock and the city's Malabar Road are top projects, we move that number 3 and 4 up at the very top.
You read my mind.
And then let it all flow down. And I think that sends a clear message to DOT. Of course, the Malabar and South Babcock, we can't use state funding off the state highway system, but we can use federal money and TRIP or SCTPO, which requires a 50% match. But it sends a clear picture to DOT. Ellis remains number 1. The Traffic Management Center, which is a county project that benefits the whole Space Coast, is extremely important. And so is South Babcock and Malabar. And I think that would be pretty concise.
Both Malabars, both
No,
east and west, or just west? Which one are
I
we?
think west, which is the city and the county's
Is that
off system. Is that the Malabar section? Okay.
And between Malabar and Babcock, which one's?
Because those
More
roads
important.
come in and out of, they're such important hubs for transportation.
Yes.
You only have to look at traffic counts for Babcock to figure that out, but.
So if you had to choose Babcock or Malabar, since we
For
also
number
have to put
3?
1 or 3
Oh.
or 4, yeah.
Oh, geez. Well, let's talk to Palm Bay.
That area of Babcock is growing.
You have the Parkway. We're resurfacing, but I think I'm worried about the traffic with the Parkway on Malabar. So we get, our phone calls are Babcock, but Malabar is.
I agree totally with that issue. That area is just going to grow, and we don't have, things can't hold the traffic.
So wait, where I realized we skipped over where ITS, the space for
Well,
ITS.
that would go down.
Okay, to number 5.
That would be, yes.
Okay.
That would be number 5.
If I,
Sorry, I'm just.
if I can offer a suggestion, I think might be helpful to help us understand the things that you're alluding to, and that is if we had some sort of indication on this, where the funding was coming from. If we had something on here that said this is trail money, then we know
Okay.
we don't even need to consider that in the highway. That if this is federal highway money, state highway money, whatever, I don't know how many, you might have 20 categories you have to break it down into, but
We've done that in past years, but
I
we
think
were
that
trying
would
to be
help us to
consistent.
look and
Sure.
see,
Yeah.
because, when you say that a trail is a higher priority than a highway, well, it is if there's trail money and there's no highway money, but if there's highway money, or if the trail would take away from that highway money, then you've got a totally different situation.
So adding an additional column.
What I will mention to you, our regional priority list, we'll be meeting at the Alliance tomorrow. And on the regional priority list, we have a regional trails list. And the Space Coast Trail is the number 1 priority on the regional priority list. So we will still have that covered and have Space Coast Trail protected, I feel, because it was fully funded, and then due to the revenue reductions, it got moved out of the work program. So I think that would be fine because, again, it's competing with different money. We can't use it on these other projects. So I think that would be fine.
Because we need to be able to tell our constituents when they say, why are you building a trail when we've got this traffic jam down the street? We need to be able to tell them that because the state gave us money for a trail, but they haven't given us enough money for a highway yet.
That makes perfect sense. We will work on that and.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, I get it, but it's, again, this is our priority list. So even if it doesn't matter, and I think we've all said maybe a dozen times now, someone in this room has at least said it once, it is a different pot of money. But this is still our priority list. If it's a different pot of money, then let's put it at the end of the list. I mean, I'm not, of course, suggesting that, but I'm saying these are our priorities. So the list does matter, even though it's different money. Otherwise, there would be no list. We would have 2 lists or 3 lists or 4 lists, depending on the funding source.
Very good point. This list is extremely important.
Exactly.
And weighing in for you, our policymakers, to weigh in on that means everything. And so this is good information, and it's a good conversation to have because many times we don't really dig into it. So this is really important. Yep.
I know maybe didn't get to finish.
Sorry, I have one more because I just want to make sure, I guess I'm asking for my own community because the way we're moving this around, is this going to knock our complete street funding for Satellite Jack? I mean, that's already planned. It's ready to go. We're already doing some of the construction already. Is that going to knock that down on the list?
It would just shuffle down a little bit, but as
Okay.
Sarah said, you're going after federal money.
Yeah.
And the TPO is federal money. It would be off system. And so, it's different pots of money for different projects, and we may still get to it. There's no commitments on when it will come up into the program, but it'll just shuffle down a little bit. Yes.
It would shuffle by 2
2.
from what I have.
Is the same true for the cocoa projects? Because I have considered some too. How can the units going up on 524?
Let's.
524 and State Road 3. I mean, not State Road 3.
Is that
They will all just shuffle down. You said 2 or 3? 2. They'll
2.
just shuffle down 2. And in the big scheme of things, it really isn't going to make a big difference. I think to the commissioner's point, it's showing a clear message to DOT. These are the top 5 priorities, period. But I know everyone would love their priority be number 1.
But yes, if you could request that those be moved somewhere else if you felt they needed to. And I will add that during our transportation subcommittee, I can't remember if it was Clear Lake or 524, it was moved, one of them was moved up to already in the transportation subcommittee.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Just
please.
want to make sure that Babcock saw to Maple Road.
I'm sorry, can you speak in the microphone? I think I'm hearing the most rain out of everybody or thunder.
I just want to make sure that that is correct, as Randy and Commissioner Zonka mentioned, Babcock South is moved up.
That'll be ahead of Malabar.
Okay.
If that
So it's
is
part of the top 5? Is that
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, I just wanna say that, 524.
That Babcock Street, I get a lot of calls. That road, you have a lot of accidents. You have a lot of accidents.
22 and 23.
The road just can't handle the traffic right now. Should be safety issue.
It is very much a challenge, and I do want to, there's no easy answer for South Babcock. I do want to be very honest with the members because it is a county road, soon, portions of it, I guess, soon to become parts of the city. And we can only use federal money on it unless we can match it with SCTPO or TRIP.
Or local funds.
Yes, impact fee funding or what have you. So the next phase that is on the list, the proposed phase, is design, and it has an $18 million price tag. So we have to come up with $18 million to be able to fund the design phase. The right-of-way is terribly expensive. So this is not a project that's going to get done anytime soon unless we can come up with some creative funding. There's no easy answer for South Babcock because again, we can't use state money on it. But still, I think having it at the top of the list, it sends a message. And I think I would really love to have a meeting for us all to get together and really kind of dig into the conversation about how are we going to get it funded? Because we're going to have to really look at it and come up with some creative ideas. Same way with Malabar. Malabar is in a PD&E phase right now. The city of Palm Bay is doing that. And the design phase is $10 million. They will not sign off on the PD&E until you have money identified for design. So we've got to come up with $10 million for design. So those are our two biggest challenging projects, both off the state highway system, but has the most traffic, most safety issues. And so we've got to sit down and have a real conversation about that.
All right, thank you. So then we have a revised priority list.
All right, so unless there's no other,
Yes, Ms. Minus.
I'm happy that Melbourne is in the top 11 on the first page, so I'm glad about that, about it being implemented. Items 19 and 20, could you clarify for me the intersection improvement?
So the intersection improvement at O'Galley and Sarna was from a study completed by the Space Coast TPO in 2018, that time frame. And basically it is supposed to make that intersection function more effectively, as well as also be safer for bicycle and pedestrians and just move traffic more effectively. We've met with the city of Melbourne, Boulevard County, and FDOT recently in regards to that project. FDOT has run some more evaluation. They're open to the improvements. And so it's just kind of waiting out there but however, it is not a priority intersection for FDOT from what I recall. Yeah. And then the US 1 phase 2 came out of a safety study conducted by the Space Coast TPO in 2016. And basically the city of Melbourne worked on designing the phase 1, and that we've now funded the construction for the city of Melbourne. And now this is the phase 2, kind of the continuing that feel of it's more of a streetscaped, safer, not quite a full-on complete street like when you think about, Hickory, but something more similar to Hickory type feel.
That's not part of Main Street to W.H. Jackson. Is that separate?
Yeah, that's a separate project. So the city of Melbourne phased it. That's because that's fully funded. So it's been moved to the fully funded list. Yeah.
Okay, that's the bike pedestrian issue. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it will take care of some access management as well as also some bicycle and pedestrian facilities and general streetscaping to make it safer and more visually appealing.
All right.
Can we move that up to number 1?
It's up to you guys.
I don't want to muddy the water much more, but because there's concern with satellite and her 2 projects, could you look at that page and look at items 20 and 21 and put those after their items, and this way you guys wouldn't lose any spots.
Okay, so you're saying move the COCO items up to, so then they remain.
Move 23 and 24, or I should say just move 20 and 21 after 24. And that way they'll gain their spots back. I think the satellite project just made the list, and the projects, and is it Miss Cost? Miss Cost have already been moved up since the last list. So I just don't want her to lose ground if she just gained some.
Yeah. And what the satellite project that was being referred to was number 9, Satellite Beaches Jackson Street was.
Oh, I thought it was the other one.
Yeah, no, that's it's almost construction ready from my understanding. The design,
we're pretty
it's
close.
the same situation with Space Coast Trail. The design's almost done.
Well, my other concern too is, and where the beach side is a little bit unique in the sense, but the sidewalks on A1A, I can't express how extremely important it is for the beach communities for us to have a consistent sidewalk on the west side of A1A. And that's the project that's above, at least starting in Indian Harbor. I mean, it's most of the pedestrian deaths that happen beachside happen because of the lack of sidewalks. And of course, we've had one in a crosswalk, but I know that the South Beaches Coalition, we are all fighting to try to get, and it's been a long time. So like 8 and 9, and I know I'm being like sort of selfish, but everybody likes to come over to our beaches and they want to patronize the beach and they want to go, and have lunch, but you can't, you can cross the road, but you can't get safely north and south because you're walking in a ditch. So those two for me, I know Jackson is definitely ready to go. So I really hate us to lose any traction on that. And obviously I know the sidewalks I think are really, really, really important.
So what if we pop for the Sun Trails projects underneath satellite?
Yes.
That's fine with
Does
me.
that make everyone?
Was that, is that going to move Titusville? I'm a new kid on the block here and trying to get an understanding of all of this that's going on. But I do know a little bit about Titusville and the problems that we're having are just like your problems. 405 need to be widened because we got a lot of construction, new residents going in over there. And so I just don't want to see it start slipping down because I'm the new kid on the block. So I do have a tone to my voice, and I also am pretty clued in on what's going on in this list. So let's not think we can just throw Titusville down the way because everybody else has problems. So we do as well as far as growth is concerned.
I don't think this item moves if we move those others around, correct?
I don't think so.
I believe it would get shifted to just the way Coco would. Because it is number 25 is the project that he's referring to.
But we're moving other items that are ahead of that.
Correct.
No, items that are higher ranking. So if those move, then those spots will be open, correct? Am I crazy? So although they're shifting, they're above the 25 already.
Yeah, yes, correct.
So
yes.
you won't move, sir?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Mhm. Yes, thank you.
Did you get all of that, Ms. Gillette?
Yes, and one thing about 405 South Street in Titusville, it is the only project on our priority list that we need a PD&E study. So I think that it stands out in that respect. I've talked to Commissioner Pritchett about that as well. And so there are times when the department are, they're looking for PD&E study ready projects. So certainly it's a need. Laura monitors it very closely on our state of the system, looking at traffic counts and what's happening there. And the traffic counts are really starting to get up there. So we are looking at that very closely. So we won't lose it.
All right, so I have number 1 is still Ellis. Number 2 is going to be the TMC. Number 3 is going to be Babcock. Number 4 is going to be Malabar. Number 5 is the Spaceport ITS project. And 528, the 2 528 projects, then the 2 South Beach projects, so Indian Harbor A1A, then Satellite Beach Jackson, then moving the Sun Trail projects underneath there, and then respectfully moving the Coco projects where they remain 22 and 23. I believe I got everyone's.
Okay, can we get a motion to accept the revised priority list?
I will make it if I don't have to say all that.
Motion by Zanka, second by Minus. All those in favor? I'm sorry, is there a comment?
So the massive, it's number 10, where is that going to be put?
It'll be number 13. I believe that project isn't that project going to be funded in the next? Yeah. Because it's such a small amount. So that'll put that ITS project as number 13, 12. No, 13.
You said 10 is dropped.
Yes, 10 will have dropped from moving the Malabar and Babcock up. pretty much, we have to think by moving Malabar and Babcock up, almost everything will have shuffled down.
We don't know that for sure. We're investigating.
Roll call. Okay, suggestion from our attorney, which we always take the attorney, well, this will be a roll call vote. So we have a motion, we have a second roll call vote.
We do still have quorum, right? Yes, I know, I saw.
No, I don't.
Allender,
Yes.
Felix, Forrester,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Hanley, Jordan, he's left, Koss, Minus, Robinson,
Yes.
Young,
Aye.
Zonka, Gibson.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? Thank you.
I will make these revisions and this will be posted to our website with the revisions as the final.
And I think we should send it out to all the members as well, so they
Yep,
can have that.
we can send it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, Steve is going to tell us about the ITS master plan.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. And my name is Stephen Bostel. I'm the Transportation Program Manager, and I have the privilege of working with all of our local agencies on planning for intelligent transportation systems. And we coordinated closely with all of our maintaining agencies. Brevard County is the majority maintaining agency for most of the municipalities in Brevard. We also have Palm Bay, Titusville, and the city of Melbourne as well. And Rich Adaman with Brevard County Traffic Operations was kind enough to come and set up a display so we can really, you guys can see what all goes into making all of these things on the screen work. And we also worked with our consultant Atkins. We had Nathan Mozaleski over here in the audience to help with any of the hard questions that come up. And so our TPO has been long supportive of using technology to make better use of how our roadway systems function, with the goal of being safer and more efficient. And so our first plan was done in 2015. And so due to changes in technology, we felt it was time for an update. And so today I'm going to go over a general overview of what ITS is, just to make sure we're all on the same page, go over the goals of the plan, talk about some of the projects that came out of it, the key benefits of all of these systems as a whole, and talk about some implementation success factors that really depend on everyone in this room and how these things progress in the future. Because as Georgiana says often, this is our 21st century transportation technology. And so just a quick show of hands, how many here in the room are familiar with intelligent transportation systems? Perfect. Not as many as yesterday. So we have a quick video that we're going to show that gives a good overview, so you don't have to hear me talk as much about it. And this video is available for everyone to share with your constituents.
Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization here with some technorific news about the current state of our area's growing intelligent transportation system and how our tax dollars can transport us into a safer and even more money-saving, tax-saving, and connected future. All of the intelligent transportation technologies we'll see, current, coming, and future, enable our local travelers to be better informed and make safer, more coordinated, and smarter use of transportation networks while saving money, fuel, and time. Most importantly, our intelligent transportation system will save our local tax dollars in the long run. We'll look at the technologies that are currently deployed, the new tech that's already on the way, and some future tech that's truly game-changing if we choose to adopt it. Let's take a little trip to a local intersection and look at the technologies currently deployed there. Here, we see the intersection of Pineda Causeway and Wickham Road. Let's look at our already deployed closed-circuit television, known as CCTV, and vehicle detection sensors working alongside the high-speed network beneath our feet, and then add in the future possibilities. There's more to our intelligent transportation system than meets the eye, as CCTV allows traffic management staff to get a real-time look at traffic flow and watch for accidents. Vehicle detection with its special sensors automatically detects the presence of vehicles and obstructions on the roadway and instantly warns the management center. Meanwhile, our already on the way crosswalk detection software will use similar vehicle detection sensors to check for people in the crosswalk and warn oncoming traffic day or night and in all weather conditions. Now, let's add in some other existing possibilities like Bluetooth technology, which can detect the speed of vehicles entering and exiting the roadway. The Traffic Management Center now not only sees the intersection, but has much deeper traffic flow data to use for safety and roadway improvements. Speaking of traffic management centers, our new traffic management center is being envisioned as we speak. We're really excited about it. It's the brains of this entire operation, after all. Let's travel to another location and look at some more future possibilities. This is the intersection of US 192 and Hollywood Boulevard. In addition to the technologies we've already seen, this intersection employs another modern technology called signal coordination. Signal coordination uses the vehicle detection sensors to allow other intersections upstream and downstream to communicate with each other and work together to predict traffic flow and adjust the signals, improving traffic flow and saving travelers even more time and money. With the addition of roadside units, direct communication with vehicles becomes possible, providing instant traffic notifications like red light wait times. And with onboard units installed in vehicles, the possibilities are even greater, as vehicles could then communicate directly with each other and the surrounding infrastructure, increasing travel efficiency, safety, and hopefully less road rage. And of course, high above the hustle and bustle, next-generation drones could not only ferry our online purchases, but provide first responders a bird's-eye view of accidents, or even provide updates to your smartphone about foot traffic at a concert, festival, or rocket launch. Of course, new technology is an investment. Our hardware must be updated, maintained, and secured in order for future components to integrate seamlessly, in the same way that we wouldn't hook up a supercomputer to a dial-up internet connection. In the present and in the future, all of these technologies acting together increase safety, optimize our existing infrastructure, and save taxpayers time and money. Well, what are you waiting for? Get involved and support the future of our intelligent transportation system. Let your local elected officials know that you support enhanced traffic operations. Learn more at spacecoasttpo.com. Thanks for watching.
Feel free to share it as much as you'd like. Use it for filler at your meetings. The videos gives a great overview in layperson terms to try to summarize all of the hard work and everything it takes to make all of that stuff work. And so since 2015, we've accomplished a lot of updates, lots of upgrades, as the video mentioned. Everything has to be updated, upgraded, and maintained. I don't know if you've looked in that cabinet yet, but there's a lot of stuff in there. Rich and our other maintaining agency workers have to work very hard 24/7, 365 days a year they're on call to make sure those things, if something happens, if someone runs into those cabinets, they get replaced and taken care of. And I believe they have to respond in 2 hours or less, no matter when they get their call. And so they've done lots of upgrades. We've done quite a few expansion projects and upgrade projects. There's been several projects in Melbourne that have been expansion projects. We've upgraded the technologies on Courtney Parkway because that was one of our older ones. And the Florida Department of Transportation is a huge partner in all of this, as they've started several region-wide initiatives that have had trickle-down effects in our area because of their success in the Orlando area. One of them is Greenway. It's the idea of using technology to help traffic flow better. And PedSafe, which is really cool and exciting, with some of the technology being able to detect where pedestrians are and either make adjustments to the signals or eventually send messages directly to the vehicles to let drivers know that there's cyclists or pedestrians in the area. But one thing we haven't moved the needle a whole lot on since 2015 is our staffing levels. I mentioned there's a lot of stuff to take care of. It takes people to do that. There's a variety of reasons. It's a very competitive industry right now. FDOT is actually working on helping develop a curriculum so we can get that out to our schools to get young people interested in this field. But also the private sector, frankly, pays better. And so that's something we have to consider as we try to get some more people in our area to help us out. And so that has built us out a pretty large existing network. So we've got over 183 miles of fiber, over 100 dynamic mesh signs, closed circuit cameras, microwave vehicle detectors, and around 484 connected signals. And just to give you an idea, each signal, with every signal in Brevard, whether it's connected or not, has a cabinet similar to that one. If someone crashes into that day or night, it's around $30,000 to replace everything in there. And so just if you know, 484, it's probably even more than that aren't connected. So let's do some math. That's a lot of equipment that's out there. We need Commissioner Lober back to do the math for us. Sorry. And so since 2015, there's been a lot of updates in technology. If you just think about the technology in your pocket, in 2015, we had our iPhone 6S. There's been significant updates since then, just in phones. Your iPhone 12 can do a lot more than that 6S could. And so if you look at things in vehicles, the technology has changed just as much there. Automatic braking is becoming standard. Lane assist helps us stay in our lane and helps us with the safe distance and cruise control automatically. Heads up displays to display information are popping up on windshields, and backup and rear view cameras are becoming standard as well. And there's even more safety features that are becoming standard. And so with all those updates in technology and everything, it made sense for us to take a look at refreshing our master plan. And so we updated our goals to make sure they were in line with our long range plan. As Georgina mentioned earlier, that is our guiding document, and we wanted to make sure our goals were consistent with that. And so we worked with all of those local agencies and FDOT to develop a really good project list, utilizing some new technologies, but also utilizing some existing technologies in different ways that we hadn't considered before. And so with Kim's work on Vision Zero, we really took a close look at that high injury network and focused in on how we could use some technologies to move that mark on safety. And so in total, we ended up with 126 projects, and they range from interstate projects and then all the way down to our safety projects, which focus on intersection safety and bicycle and pedestrian safety in particular. But also, and thankfully, we made it through this storm, it skirted around us. And so we also have evacuation projects on here, and that is to make sure that we have the appropriate equipment on the right corridors to help when we do have to evacuate or manage events. And so the interstate projects, some of the wrong way driving in particular is one that's deployed on the Central Florida Expressway that has worked very well. That's one thing that was considered on 95 here and 528, along with advanced queue warning systems. That happens some now, but it's not completely automatic. And with as our ramps back up and traffic backs up on 95, and hopefully in the future, those warnings will go directly into your vehicles, so you'll get more of a heads up. And then trying to figure out how we can deploy some technologies to ease some of that congestion on our on and off ramps. And then our general advanced traffic management system projects are our expansion projects. More of all that cool stuff that Rich has over there, more fiber optic cable, more connected signals. And by having those baseline expansion projects in place, we can add more things in the future, like the picture below is a roadside unit. That's what will need to be deployed in order to communicate what's going on in the traffic cabinet to the vehicles and to the drivers. So once that foundation's in place, we can add on to it. And then we looked at signalized intersection safety improvements. And so that includes our cameras, some signal retiming. One of the things I really like is the research that is been working on that advanced dilemma zone detection. We've all been faced with that decision when the light turns yellow. Do you speed up or do you slow down? It'd be really nice if the controller was on the same page with what your final decision was. So there's a lot coming out on that. And then deploying that connected vehicle technology, those roadside units, so that they can get the information directly to the vehicles. And then we also looked at unsignalized intersection safety. This was something different, utilizing some existing technologies on how we might be able to put a detector on a side street to let drivers on the main street know that there's someone approaching at a stop sign on a blind curve. So it's all about getting more information to our drivers. And then I did mention event management and evacuation. Have a lot of space launches lately. The Florida Department of Transportation has done a great job coordinating with our local agencies and our Emergency Operations Center on doing work to improve the traffic flow during those big launch events. And they will do the same in the event of evacuations as well. So we've identified some projects to add equipment in order to help them do that more efficiently. And then something else that is new is taking a look at parking management. You may have seen this if you've been to Disney Springs and the parking garages. They show you where their space is available. So it'd be nice if we could do that in our area. We've got a lot of people going to our beaches, and sometimes it can be frustrating if you make the long drive over and you can't find a place to park. So there's some technologies that exist if we work with our local agencies to where we might be able to get space availability information to the traveling public through existing apps like Waze and maybe Google or something like that. And then we also looked at transit technology. Terry touched on the awesome system that they've deployed on all of their buses. But we also took a look at other things too, like mobility transit kiosks for people that might not have phones. So where there could be a tablet or something like that in a protected area at a bus stop to where they could get that same information on the app. And then also, if we get to the point where we have so many people riding our bus and the headways are running off, we can deploy transit signal priority to give the bus priority, green light priority, to make sure they can get back on time. And then we also took a look at bicycle safety, getting back to some of our safety projects and looking at the higher injury network, and came up with some other ways that we could get some more information to the traveling public that there might be cyclists in the area through blank out signs and adaptive lighting systems and specific cyclist detection software, which I believe Titusville has deployed in a couple spots. And then looking at pedestrian safety, again, trying to get more information not only to the drivers, but try to make the pedestrians are in more protected environments with lighted crosswalks, adaptive lighting systems, and the vehicles and the drivers being able to know the pedestrians are in the area. And then we have instances where we've combined those two things in some areas, like along A1A, where we have a lot of cyclists and pedestrians. And again, I say it over and over again, it's about getting that information back to the drivers that there's cyclists and pedestrians in the area. And so all of these projects put together, the 10-year opportunity cost or benefit cost ratio is 7-to-1. And so that's really, really great for a transportation project of any kind. All of these capacity projects we were discussing earlier consider to have a good benefit to cost ratio if it's 2-to-1. And so 7-to-1 is huge. And that's really just considering the ATMS expansion projects and our evacuation projects. It's not touching on the parking or some of those safety projects because those are harder numbers to quantify. But all of these projects have huge safety benefits, provide time and fuel savings to our traveling public. These are some of the few transportation projects we can deploy that actually pay for themselves over time, especially if gas continues to rise the way it has been. And we have really quick implementation compared to traditional transportation projects. Some of our projects have been in the pipeline for a couple decades, and we can go through and implement a lot of these projects in 1 to 5 years. And it all really prepares us for the future of transportation, because as it becomes increasingly hard for us to widen roadways and make these traditional improvements, this is really our best option to utilize what we have better, make everything safer and more efficient. And it will really get us set up and ready for connected and autonomous vehicles by having this big network ready to add stuff onto as we need to. And so I mentioned we need your help on a lot of different things. You guys can all support policies, that support maintenance and operations in your area. We can support staffing initiatives. The TPO has contributed $250,000 a year for, I want to say around 10 years or so, for operational funding for Brevard County that pays for a couple salaries for technicians. But there's opportunities for us to, expand that countywide amongst other agencies and put a bigger focus on the operations and maintenance with staffing. And then project funding. We had a great discussion on funding just a little while ago. Just because these are on our ITS master plan doesn't mean some of the local agencies can't go ahead and move forward with some of these suggestions on your own with local funding. I'd be happy to work with any one of you on that. And then any consideration for special operations and maintenance funding, working with you all to update our signal maintenance agreements. And afterwards, after the adoption of this plan, I'll be working to develop a local operations committee with our local maintaining agencies, as well as any of our other agencies that are interested in participating, like our first responders. And so all of this stuff has to talk back to somewhere so our operators can make decisions, see what's working, what's not. And so currently our our traffic management center is in Vieira. It's a smaller space. We're working on rebranding to a transportation management center so we can consider all modes, transit. We've got rail coming online. Rockets are going up more and more. And so that really covers all of our different modes of transportation, and the Florida Department of Transportation has done the same with their regional transportation management center in Sanford. And so the county has funded the design for this facility. It's just kicking off. The construction is currently unfunded, but we're having talks, and thank you all for your support on bumping it up a notch. That definitely helps. And so it is now number 2 on the priority list. Did I get that right, Sarah? And this will be a very exciting facility because it's not just about a bunch of screens and everything. It'll be a collaborative environment for other agencies to come side by side and work together on these big events. And for all we know, we could have private companies in the future because Uber and Lyft want their fleets to become autonomous at some point. So we're really looking at this facility with the idea for expansion and to be able to continue to upgrade our whatever technologies come our way in the next 30 years. And the TPO also is planning on being in that facility as well, with the reasoning being that all of these systems generate massive amounts of data, and we love data. And so, especially Chelsea and Laura. And so, but we need to make sense of it and analyze that data to see where we can make future improvements. And so that's what we think we can bring to the table in this facility, and as well as some additional funding, hopefully, for continuing operations and maintenance. And so with all that being said, all of this supports, in the big picture, the space industry. We're the Space Coast. This is why we're all here. And it makes sense for us to have a 21st century technology, transportation infrastructure in order to support these big things that are happening in our area on other planets. So with that, I would ask for adoption of our ITS master plan and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions before we have a full call for a vote on this? No questions. I have a, yes, Mr. Forrester.
Hope I'm not going to start something like I did last time, but when I listened to the folks from Melbourne and Palm Bay talking about the problems that they're having, particularly a couple of intersections that are going to cost some millions and take many years to solve and complete in a traditional manner, what can this technology do to help that process?
So we can, if it's not already in place at those intersections, we can take a look and see how things can, how we can deploy those technologies. And actually, if Rich or Karina are monitoring the system and there are technologies there, they can make active changes to those signals to allow to try to correct any issues that are happening there at the time.
Do we know if we're doing that? Are we doing that?
We do the best we can. If what specific intersections do you have? Sorry.
That's all right. I got to go back and look at my list because it's not my territory. I'm not, what?
But we do our best, but it gets down to that staffing and everything too as well. Having people to
You
be
guys
able
help
to
me with
make
Babcock
changes.
and Palm Bay Road.
Yep. Babcock and Palm Bay Road, that is, I think that's our largest intersection in the county. And I think we've done just about everything we can there. There's the technology, you've got dual lefts, I think, on every leg of the intersection. And so, but that is a site that is actively being monitored. And we do our best to try to make sure that traffic moves well through there.
What about Hollywood and Palm Bay Road, right on there? Before you get on 95, that seems like traffic seems like it's back, so.
Yep, Hollywood and Palm Bay Road, I do believe has some of it on there too, but especially at rush hour, even if we have to give, some time to all the different legs of the intersection. And unfortunately, we only have so much time in a minute, and some of those cross streets have some heavy traffic on them too, so. Yeah.
Mr. Bailey?
Yeah. So Rich is going to chime in with a few better answers than I have.
Hi, how are you? I'm Rich Adamman. I'm with the Brevard County Traffic Operations. So speaking on Palm Bay Road, we have done a number of things to improve the traffic flow. Number one, we've retimed all of Palm Bay Road very recently from Emerson and Minton all the way through RJ Conlin. So all the timings have been revised, and the flow, I drive that road almost every day, is significantly improved. As far as Babcock and Palm Bay Road, we have improved all of the detection at that location, along with all of the rest of Palm Bay Road. So all the vehicle detection has been improved at every single intersection throughout that whole corridor. So we've been monitoring it very closely, and we have seen improved traffic there. Everything seems to be working well. We used to get a number of complaints about Palm Bay and Hollywood. We don't receive those same complaints anymore. So I think that a lot of the improvements that we have made with the technology are actually allowing the traffic to flow a lot more smoothly in that area. We do have the challenges of the volumes of traffic that we just can't avoid, but we're doing everything possible, and we do monitor that, the complaints that we get about that, and react almost instantly to those complaints. So.
We had somebody that hit right at the Palm Bay Road.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, the young lady was crossing the street at night, got hit by a car.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, sir. And I am aware of that. I know there's also a study that's going to happen about improving the lighting along Palm Bay Road. I'm not sure where that is at the moment, but I know that is something that has been discussed and is underway. So I can get you more information on that. I'm not sure what the specifics of that accident were, other than that it did happen, and I can't really speak any further on that. But I know that wasn't anything that was related to the traffic signal operation itself. I think it was a lighting condition, from what I understand. Okay. Yes.
Is there a comprehensive list or map or a way to access what's happened in advance of this technology to enhance that? Just curious what roads are.
Yeah, on our website, we gave you the proposed project map, but we do have in the full document that we're wrapping up the final documentation of everything. Oh, yeah, these are our proposed project maps. Excuse me. Oh, yep. Yeah, those are our proposed projects. But we do have an existing network map. Oh, I'm sorry, Nate's telling me to go back to it. Thank you, Nate. That's why you're here. Said he helps with the hard questions. So that's our projects map. And then I'll go back to our existing map. But yeah, that's our existing network there on everything that we have so far. And then we're going to add all the proposed projects to it as well.
So when we talk about ITS, what we're really talking about is a basket full of technology tools that are at the disposal of agencies to accomplish various tasks and improvements. I don't know what to do with this. So we can have, say, one flavor of ITS at one intersection, and maybe it's, Rich, you were talking about adaptive lighting, I think, or something at one of the intersections. Maybe that is something that would be necessary to prevent vehicle and pedestrian collisions. Whereas there are other ones where it's improving the detection or managing the signalized intersection to improve operations. So when we're talking about ITS, we're not talking about a blanket solution. I want to make sure that we're kind of aware of that. It's a basket of tools. Sorry, it's a basket of tools that are at your guys' disposal to achieve solutions to individual problems that are at locations. So when we're looking at this map, and I know it's really hard to see, but there is a much better one online. There are a number of intersections and a number of corridors that we do have fiber optic network connectivity to. Advanced transportation controllers, CCTV coverage, kind of the foundational element to ITS. So there are elements that Rich was mentioning that we're already doing active arterial management. We're actively looking at the status of the technology. Are the signals operating effectively? Are we making sure that we're getting the best throughput? Are we maintaining travel time and travel time reliability? And then some of the other things that we were talking about are kind of the next generation of ITS. So maybe that's, advanced pedestrian detection to avoid an incident where a pedestrian and a vehicle have a conflict. So rather than just being able to statically monitor that intersection and the operations, if we could not only monitor the intersection, but detect a pedestrian the moment they step across or into the crosswalk, and then alert drivers into their vehicles or through a blank out sign that, hey, there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk. That's kind of the next level. So in Brevard County, we kind of have two scenarios for the ITS master plan. There is first the continuation of what we have been doing here in the region, laying out additional fiber optic communications, improving the technology that you kind of see here, the traffic signalized intersections, the traffic controllers, the travel time detectors, and the CCTV cameras. So that's kind of what Stephen was talking about with the advanced transportation or advanced traffic management system. It's improving the regional network, making a robust, resilient, redundant network so that we can employ all these other technologies seamlessly. So that's kind of one flavor. And then for other ones like Palm Bay and Wickham Road, where we already have kind of that foundational element, it's making sure that we maintain that technology to the current standards and then implementing the additional technology for the specific solutions that we have at that particular intersection. Sorry, I think the battery is off. I'm just gonna yell. Okay, so we're kind of at two phases. Now, Mr. Forrester, to your question, technology can really help at a lot of spots, but if there's a particular issue, for example, we're trying to put one lane road, it's never gonna fix it, right? So we're applying the technology to the right solution at the right place. The other thing to be cognizant of is this is an ITS, this is an intelligent transportation system. So we need to look at this from a system approach. And it's not just one intersection, because where we think it might be an issue at one intersection, it actually might be a confluence of things happening upstream or downstream.
Sorry, we have online folks that can't hear
You're good. So
we're focusing not just on individual locations, but we're focusing on the region as a whole, and it's a system that kind of develops it. So, you know, where we were talking about Babcock and Palm Bay, if we just implement the technology at that one location, then we may just be shifting the problem upstream, downstream, left, right. So when we're looking at ITS, we're looking at corridor-based solutions or regional-based solutions to develop a system and not kind of spot locations. Now, there are instances where spot solutions are valid. Stephen mentioned a really good one where we have unsignalized intersections. Maybe there's a major curve off of Wickham Road and there's a side street that's kind of dangerous. That may be a spot location. But when we're talking about major roadways like, you know, Palm Bay or Wickham or 520, then usually we're looking at system solutions, not just spot solutions. So I kind of heard some of those things kind of going on, so I wanted to just kind of address it all at once.
Well,
does that make more sense?
It makes sense, but I don't necessarily agree with it.
Okay.
To me, if you have an identified problem, and I understand that you're building a bigger network and looking at a bigger picture.
Right.
But, you know, if you're trying to build a shark cage, but you got a barracuda biting you on the foot at the same time, you got to take care of the barracuda before you can build the shark cage.
Completely agree.
And so if we've got some of these intersections, that we need to, and I'm not saying it has to, I didn't even mean to imply that any technological solutions needed to only be at that intersection.
No,
because I understand that it could be 3 miles down the road at another intersection that's causing that problem there.
Right.
Okay, or contributing to it. All I'm saying is we know we're not going to get these problems solved with construction money in the next 6 months or the next year. If we can alleviate those problems, then I think it is up to us and to you specifically to take a hard look at that vicinity, however big a system, a geographical area you care to define that would impact that particular intersection, and see if there is a technological approach that can, I mean, a 10% alleviation of a significant problem is a significant alleviation. And so I guess that's what I'm suggesting, proposing, throwing out, whatever you want to call it.
I understand. And so I misunderstood. So as part of the PD&E process that is conducted for major roadway improvement projects, there is an alternative analysis portion, and I'm sure the Space Coast staff could speak to this much better than I can, but I do know that TSM&O or ITS, they're kind of two flavors of the same cake, but those type of improvements are considered right along with the roadway improvements.
Well,
so if they say, hey, there's a $10 million project to re-widen the intersection or a $1 million project to retime the intersection, those are all considered as part of that process. So that is being considered part and parcel together. So, you know, we're not saying, hey, we're not looking at this from an operational standpoint to see if we can improve this with technology. We're comparing that as an option with the roadway improvement options. And is Babcock under PD&E, Georgia?
It's the PD&E is completed.
Okay.
South Babcock. Yeah.
So as part of that process, they did a cost benefit analysis of, and again, I'm assuming.
I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but you're still running around and around in circles here on me. What I'm saying is take what we've got, put some focus onto these problem intersections with the technology, with the equipment, with whatever we have, whatever resources we currently have available. I'm not talking about finding another $1 million or $500,000 or whatever. Take what we've got and apply it as best we can to alleviate the congestion at some of these critical
quick
points.
Fixes. Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm not talking about your system, how you're designing it, or any of that. We've got expertise, we've got technology, put them to work to solve the problem tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And that's one of the things that we're hoping that we can have discussions like that, a lot of that happens now, but we want to expand on it in that operations committee that we want to get together and have meet regularly so we can try to do things quicker. Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just add that we currently do on a real-time basis on all of the connected networks, do try to make improvements almost instantly if we can and resolve issues that do exist. So we can actually address it right away, we address it right away. We have a 2-hour response time when we do get a complaint. We have access remotely now to these intersections. We can actually almost instantly see what's going on there, make a determination. We no longer send technicians out determining things on connected intersections. We're actually evaluating them in the office, either ourselves or the DOT, the Florida Department of Transportation. RTMC has access to our full system. They also work with us. So we are using that technology.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and we're working on finalizing the full document right now too. So that'll be up soon for you to be able to see all the work that we've done.
Well, thank you guys and I'll call the question.
I have a question as well, if I may, please.
Okay.
You said yourself, you have to get the information to the driver. So with new cars and as technology goes forward, the ITS system can talk directly to the car. It can pop up on our heads-up display or a little ping on our GPS, whatever. As we move forward, it will get better. But until then, how are you getting that information to the driver? If it pops up on our cell phone, we're not looking at our cell phones usually when we're driving. And for people who may just have the kind that just doesn't work with that. I mean, some people have very bare minimal phones or equipment in their car. Sometimes you try to order these things on your car and that car doesn't even have this kind of equipment on it. So how are you getting, how is that driver perceiving all this information that you're collecting?
So there's a lot of things that need to happen for those things to happen. So first off is that we've got a big network in place. So it's just been decided what types of technologies need to be deployed for that connected vehicle part. That's where you send the information directly into the cars, those little roadside units that I showed the picture of. And first we would have to deploy a bunch of those at all of our intersections in order for the intersections to communicate with the vehicle. That's step one of all of that. And then once you have those out there, your newer vehicles that already have the onboard units that can receive the information, we'll be able to show it on your dashboard. But for your older classic cars and things like that, or that don't have that technology, we're hoping that either you can use your cell phone in a safe, responsible manner, or maybe you can buy a standalone device like when we used to have GPSs that stuck on our windshields. So it could be something like that.
The other option is providing more static information systems, blank out signs or dynamic message signs. So we understand that the penetration of connected vehicles isn't 100%. It's not even 10% at this point. So providing information in multiple medias, blank out signs that say, pedestrian ahead, be wary, or dynamic message signs that say beach parking on off of US 1 is full or A1A is full, use alternative route. So we would not just pick one media for the delivery of information to motorists, but use multiple. And then the other thing is right now, the Florida Department of Transportation is sponsoring a design for a mobile app that you just download, and it basically acts very similar to an onboard unit or heads-up display. So that will increase penetration by just downloading that said app.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
And this has been plus 5 years ago. And I had been driving along, and all of a sudden it pops up that there was an actual on it. So that technology has been, even with those simple, plug and play type GPS, obviously they've had stuff like that. Because that immediately start thinking about kids slowing down. So they probably have more of that.
Thank you. Good information. Thank you. Any more comments for Steve before we get our final motion here? Yes.
My question would be on lighting. Is there a lighting, overall lighting, better lighting, I should say, with the ITS code light overall program?
So right now, we just really identified that as a potential solution. We didn't identify any areas where it should go. Lighting's been has always been a touchy subject in the transportation world, as where it falls on the maintaining agencies to put it up or to maintain it and pay the power bill and all that stuff. And so I don't think we've actually deployed any adaptive lighting in our area yet. So it would be an awesome new potential project to sit down with local areas that are interested in it and try to put something together.
This is a major issue. Hopefully, we try to address it currently. This is basic. While we go ahead getting ready for the future and something that's basic, appropriate lighting. This is so basic. By the fact that we never been a plan.
Yeah.
We don't have any master plan for lighting. I've seen new on-pole masts that's just, newly installed, new intersection, millions of dollars or whatever it costs. For lighting. And one way to measure that, it's number of accidents that determine where should better lighting was. I think that's pretty sad. And those making those decisions, this is people's lives. They use that as a measure to guide them to
those conversations really need to happen, between the cities and the whoever owns the road going through the area, because that's another challenge. If you have a county road going through a city, who pays for the improvement and then who pays the power bill and all of that. So, but it's like you said, it's lives on the line. It's things that need to happen, and it would be great if we had local agencies step up and start, with the lighting plan, because I don't think we've had anyone do that yet as the overall city lighting plan. Because I think a lot of others might follow suit. But I'd be happy to be a part of that, see how we can get some technology in there too.
Yes, Ms. Finus.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure where this fits in under transportation, but at the intersection of US 1 and Auditing, in the median there, you're traveling north of US 1 and you're going east on our galley, and you hit the pedestrian button. The pedestrian button is sitting next to Subway on the west side. So if that car is turning right and then they don't pay attention, knowing that the light has, that the pedestrian light has changed, then someone is going to get hit. I say it because I almost got hit at that intersection. Is there any way to entertain, not necessarily now, but to visit, maybe putting a pedestrian sign or whatever in that median? I call it the little island there, so that it's a whole lot closer to the drivers, this turning right on going to the beach, versus it being next to Subway, on the other side, the traffic is going west. So that to me is very dangerous. Like I said, I almost got hit. I had that white light, but they're not paying attention. The cars are trying to beat the traffic that's turning, from the south, trying to go beach side. So we can entertain that sometime in the very near future, so that you won't be reading about me in the newspaper.
Yeah, absolutely. We can.
That's the kind of things that they can do. Yes. So I will get a hold of you and get a better understanding of what the problems and their problem solution.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that goes for anybody see problems like that, please let us know, and we can try to work on those.
All right, with that being. Yes, I guess I'm trying to move forward right now. But that being said, can I get a motion to adopt resolution 22-04? Okay, minus and costs. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. I know it's getting late, but please don't leave without taking a look at some of the stuff over there, talking to Rich and getting a selfie in front of that big cabinet there.
Thank you, Steve. All right, may I get a motion to adjourn? All approved. Get up and walk out. 4:15, okay. Fire commission, Florida, vital Painesville, shooting and restaurant inspection. Okay. Around 10 o'clock, okay, then conclusion.